Hey friends, happy Tuesday to you. It is time for a little Private Club Radio live, and I've got a great guest going to join us. I'm going to try to pronounce his name as best I can, and we'll let him correct me if I if I butcher it. But we're going to be joined today by Gautam Patankar of Bobby Jones Links. We'll be talking about training and building a culture with your team at your club, and he's got a lot of interesting advice for all of us out there who need to manage people. I think you're going to get a lot out of it. Now, before we get into the interview, just want to give a big thanks to the folks who sponsor this show and really make it possible that I can do this show. First off, Concert Golf Partners, who provide capital infusion to clubs who need it all around the country. They've got a growing club network of about 22 clubs out there. Peter and his team do a fantastic job. Even if you just have a question or you're thinking about it, maybe making a switch, or maybe even if you're just considering your options, Peter and his team are there for you and to answer any questions that you might have. Also want to give a big thanks to Capstone Hospitality, who help clubs out there with their marketing and sales development processes. They come in, they build a full membership for you, and they do a lot more than just that as well. Brian and his team really take a holistic approach to kind of solve your problems in terms of membership and sales and development. Capstone-hospitality.com is where you can find out more about them. And I also want to give a big shout out to the National Club Association, longtime contributors and friends of this show. You'll hear from Henry Wallmeyer and his team quite often here on Private Club Radio. In fact, we probably need to get Henry back on here real soon. But they are going to bat for the private club industry in Washington, D.C. each and every week, working with the legislation and what's going on and keeping everyone up to date. They did such a great job during the pandemic, just giving people the guidelines and help and resources. They're really a fount of knowledge. And if your club hasn't gotten involved with the National Club Association, I highly recommend you do. They're just a wonderful, wonderful resource. All right. Just in terms of some quick announcements here, I guess I'll give you a little update on what's going on the YouTube side. So we're about to cross 2 million views for the Let's Play Through show, which has been pretty awesome. I did a really fun video recently. I actually surprised my father for Father's Day. I flew out to Utah. He hadn't had clubs, a new set of clubs, in over 40 years since he was a golf professional. So I actually surprised him, showed up at his door. We had a blast. I took him to get a custom fitting. We found a local golf shop there that let us in early in Salt Lake City, and he was thrilled. And he actually shot 77 with those clubs. So for those of you who caught that episode, he's really enjoying it, and that was really special to do for him. But that show is really growing. We're doing two episodes a week over there on YouTube. If you haven't checked out the show yet, please do. It's called Let's Play Through with a U. And you can find it at the YouTube address of the same name, youtube.com/Let's Play Through. In terms of other news, well, it's hopefully you guys are in full swing in summertime, right? And I really thought that our guest here that we're going to bring on, Gautam, would have some really useful information. As I know here in Florida, for instance, we're really struggling finding talent. And I look at everything from retail to fast food to private clubs. There's been a real lack of a pool of labor to come back and work in our clubs. And I think if you can nail what our guest is going to speak about today, you're going to have a much better chance of attracting the right individuals at your club. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome to the show Mr. Gautam Patankar. Now, tell me, how much did I butcher that one, Gautam?
Man, it was perfect. I'm 45 years old and I've heard worse. Trust me, that was outstanding. You got it right on.
I appreciate it. I'd love to just kind of get your background. I know you've been in the golf in private club industry for many, many years. Just learn a little bit more about you and Bobby Jones Links.
Yeah, so my story is pretty, not interesting. I think all of us in the business maybe have a very similar story. We got into golf, and, I was very lucky that I actually was able to play golf in college. I went to Rutgers University. This was a long time ago. And then, you graduate from college and you say you've got this degree and you go, what is it that I can do that allows me to do what I love? And what allowed me to do what I love was becoming a cart attendant very close to where you are at River Hills in Valrico, Florida, down there.
Nice.
And, I remember in 1997, minimum wage was $5.25. And you wake up in the morning and say, how in the world am I going to afford anything on $5.25? And, I kind of at that point just kept kind of going through. So I went from being a cart attendant. I worked in the pro shop where $5.25 became $6.25. And I was like, wow, I'm rich. And I was very lucky to get a job as a marketing director in Orlando at a great Tom Fazio golf course, the Legacy Club at Aqua Lakes. And I ended up working for, at the time, Eagle Golf, Evergreen Alliance. And I somehow or another, this gentleman named Tim Krebs saw something in me that was really interesting. And I got a job as a GM. I probably did not deserve it, but they took a risk. And ever since then, I've just been in the golf business. And I'm very lucky that I get to do something that is not just my hobby, but it's what I love to do.
Right.
And during my time at Eagle Golf, Steve Willey was one of the regional managers for Evergreen Alliance. And when he left Eagle Golf, he came to Atlanta and started at what at the time was Affinity Golf Partners with Whitney Krause, which is then changed to Mosaic, which now changed to Bobby Jones Links. And I think in my relationship with Steve over the years, there was an opening in 2005 at a club here in Atlanta. And that's how. So at this point, I think I am the longest tenured guy at Bobby Jones Links since 2005. And, I sit in a little bit different position today, but that's kind of how I'm sitting here in front of you today.
Well, I hope you're making a little more than $5.25 an hour. I know my first job, I think, was $4.25. I was watching YouTube at 14. Yeah.
It was, the $5.25 was amazing because when you got the Saturday morning shift to work the cart barn, you knew you were going to make some cash, right? But $5.25 was not it.
Yeah. Hopefully there was some generosity from the folks playing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'd love to learn more about. I know you guys are really. Or at least your position specifically is really deep into training and developing the culture. Can you tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing there at Bobby Jones Links?
Yeah, so I think, Gabe, it might be best if I kind of give you just a short history of what happened. We were fortunate enough to license the name Bobby Jones from the Bobby Jones family when we were working on the Bobby Jones golf course down there in Atlanta. And once we have the name, we sat down as a leadership team and said, what is it that we're going to do differently than everybody else? Everybody walks in a room, and this isn't just not throwing stones at everybody, but we just have the same issue, right? Nobody walks into a room and says, we're not going to do good at cutting your expenses or monitoring your revenues or selling memberships, right? So we kind of said, what is it that the market or that the industry says they do necessarily, but they don't do well? And where we landed on was really customer service and training. I think when we go into new clubs, one of the things we find is that a lot of the frontline team is kind of left to their own devices, and I'm not just necessarily talking about drop a plate from the left and pull from the right. We're talking about just customer interaction. And then we're talking about how do you get the department heads and the leaders to really lead and build a culture, right? Build a culture of kindness and caring. And we landed on that. We said, our key differentiator is going to be, I don't want to talk about too much about economics, but we're going to move the bottom line through customer care and employee care, right? And that was really our main goal. And we said that's where we're going to hang our hat, because those are the things that we believe that maybe the club business struggles with a little bit, right? We do a lot of work when it comes to trackers and dashboards and things like that, but maybe we miss a little bit on the service and the training. So we kind of moved forward on that. And I guess where we kind of landed, and I know I told you the story when we first started, was we had this. Did I lose you?
I'm here. Yeah.
Okay.
Went big on you.
Oh, technology every once in a while scares me a little bit, but so it's interesting. We're moving forward on this program, and I fell into this new role at the end of last year, and I remember going back to my boss, Whitney Krause, and I said, I have this awesome name for the program, and I said the name of the program is going to be Just. And I remember he looked at me and goes, what exactly are you talking about? And I said, well, here's what happens, right? Every time I go to a club, when I ask the frontline team, so the cooks and the cart attendants and the pro shop guys, and I say, what is it that you do for a living? they end up telling me, I'm just a cart attendant, or I'm just a pro shop person, or I'm just a cook, you know? And what I've told them in the field is all these years, I've said, well, you're not just a cook. You're just the most important people in the whole entire club.
Wow, I love that.
And it kind of changes that mindset a little bit. So I pause the story. I tell Whitney that story, and Whitney kind of goes, I don't know. And lo and behold, he got his acronym, right? And the acronym stands for Jones University Service Training, because I know that CEOs and people that are in new business development, they love acronyms and just the way of the world.
Right.
So for me, I love the name of the program because it's actually built out of the ground very organically, because when I go from club to club and I actually talk about what it is that we're going to do, you see that little bit of a mindset change that people have. And they're like, yeah, we really are just the most important people. And we do, Gabe, talk about the customer journey, right? When the customer walks in the door and what they do, you know, from the time the phone is picked up to the time they leave, they very rarely come in contact with the executive chef or the general manager or the food and beverage manager. They meet the pro shop attendant who picks up the phone. They meet the cart attendant. They meet the bartender. And if 90% of our company is built of frontline associates, they really are just the most important people. So part of that training program is really two sides. Number one is we teach the frontline team how important they are and how valuable they are in the process of what it is that we do and in the customer journey. And then we teach the department heads how to coach, you know, how to be, as weird as it sounds, you know, how to care for people, how to be kinder, you know, how to do, you know, every club across the world probably has this employee of the month, right? And the employee of the month is really a strange thing because the department heads sit in a room, they kind of look at each other and go, okay, who do we give it to? We can't give it to Joey every month, so let's give it to this person. So they nominate somebody. They bring the person in the room. They hand them a certificate and a check. They slap them up against the wall. They take a picture, and then they post it on, you know, their Facebook page. And can you imagine if in our business, if you won the general manager of the year, if I just snuck into a building, slapped you against the wall, gave you a check and a certificate and said, you're the GM of the year, and then I leave.
Right.
Like, so we teach them how to recognize people. So there's more to the program than that, but really, you know, I know I tend to be long-winded here, but really the meaning behind the word just is more than just the acronym. It really is that the frontline team is just the most important group in our entire company. And if we get that right and make people feel valued, this program works.
So are you doing this then with the GMs themselves, or are you doing this group training with all the employees in one room? How does this work?
So it's basically three different steps. You know, the first thing we teach is we teach the general manager. We have a small course of about 5 or 6 videos plus one-on-one time that teaches the GMs like how to be not just a guy or a girl that just sits at the desk all day and manages by keystrokes and dashboards and point of sale. We teach them, we actually have a great 9-point step plan that teaches them how to be on the floor like 80% of the time, right? How to meet the guest, how to meet the associates. So we teach that mindset change to the department heads and the GM first. Then we teach something very similar to the department heads. And then what we do is we actually have several meetings when we first go into a club or even in an incumbent club. We go in and we sit with all of the frontline teams, whether it's 1 meeting a day or 5 meetings a day, and we teach them like the importance and the value that they bring. You know, we teach them about feeling safe. You know, we actually ask people, it's very funny. We ask people, do you feel safe to come to work every day? And everybody raises their hand. And then I say, no, I'm not asking you if you feel safe like you're going to get mugged on your way to the club. I'm asking you, do you feel safe to make good decisions? And everybody raises their hand. And then I say, do you feel safe enough that if you were in the parking lot walking to your point of where your employment is, and you heard 4 golfers say, you know, it took me 7 hours to play, I'm never coming back. Do you feel safe enough to go up to them and say, you know what, I overheard your conversation, go back into the pro shop, and they're going to refund your money on me today?
Wow.
If we get employees to feel that safe to make and do the right thing, because really it's just doing the right thing, sure, then obviously we move the needle forward, right? Why do we need somebody from a room who has a business card to make the same decision that frontline teams make? So we teach that. So we teach the general managers leadership and culture. We teach the department heads. Then we go to frontline. And then there is a big part of the training where there is how to clean a golf cart, how to do serve from the left, pull from the right. We teach how to answer the phone. So we do some technical, but I think the key, Gabe, is tying in the culture mindset and the importance of what they do, plus the technical, and that's where the wins happen.
That's where the magic is. Yeah. Speaking of magic, I mean, there's a company that I'm sure you're familiar with, being living in the Orlando area for those years, and I mean, Disney probably does one of the most interesting and probably the best at really training, and empowering, like you mentioned. They call them cast members, right? And that goes into the whole culture of that place as well, is that they're almost like actors on a stage. But I think with them, if I'm not mistaken, every employee or cast member actually has the ability to do like what you said with offering them a free foursome or something. I think every Disney employee down to the janitor could spend up to $75 with no questions asked to make the customer experience or the guest experience that much better. Talk to me more about that and why, what you guys allow and how you train that with the frontline staff.
Yeah. So, I think with all of my peers and yourself on the phone today, or on the podcast today, I think one of the most difficult things that we have to do, which is different than Disney, which is different than Chick-fil-A and different places like that, is as a management company, you're responsible for things that you don't necessarily see, right? We compare ourselves, not compare, but we look at Disney, it's in one theme park and everybody can the leader, the department heads, they can see everybody at one time, versus when you're a management company, it's very hard to see everybody everywhere. So that does come down to the mindset change of how do we get our general managers looking out for those type of things more Disney, right? More giving people the freedom. So I'll tell you another interesting story. So recently we do these calls once a month. There are these culture series calls that we do. And one of the things, Gabe, we were trying to solve was we're getting better at calling people Mr. Jones or Mr. Smith, right? Those are easy things. We're getting better at remembering, names and small things like that, right? And then we're really good at, when someone's car doesn't start, we're really good at getting our car and the jumper cables and starting the car, right? We're really good at the easy stuff, and then we're good at the big victories. Where we get stuck is in the middle, right? It's how do you get the mindset to be where I have the freedom to do things. So we had this awesome call a couple of months ago, and out of that call came a new program that we started. It's called the Freedom 15. And every single day, any one of our department heads can tap any associate on the shoulder and basically say, you have 15 minutes to go make somebody's day. It's very simple, right? And that is exactly what Disney does, right? So we kind of stole it from Disney, because when Disney actually does their training, they go through all the technical training and the cast members and everything like that. But during the 2 or 3 days of training that they have, they actually allow all of the new associates to walk the park and go make somebody's day. And it could be something as simple as, I see a family of 4 and I just say, hey, I see your camera. Do you mind if I take a beautiful picture of you guys in front of the Dumbo ride, whatever it is, right? Wow. So we took that concept and we brought it into our country club world, because we lock our people back waiting for the simple things, right? It's as long as I call you by your last name, I win. But I really need to call you by your last name. Remember it is what you drink. Remember it is that what your kids' names are. Remember when you went on vacation. And then on the back end, we're really good at doing things that are extraordinary. But when you tap someone on the shoulder and say, go do something awesome, it actually builds this level of creativity that I don't know if we've ever really seen, other than the employees in our group that are just outstanding at it, right? But to get somebody out of their comfort zone, like we had a young man, he basically was watching a boy on the driving range and his mom was sitting on a bench, and it's hot. It was just last month, and he goes out there with just 2 cups of water, and all he says to her is, ma'am, I know it's hot. Here's a couple of drinks of water from me to you, because you're doing an awesome thing being out here so your son can get better at golf. Wow. And that's part of that Freedom 15, is it's such a small thing. And what we did, Gabe, was we took the word empowerment away and gave the word freedom, because empowerment is like Knights of the Round Table, right? Like I christen thee able to do good things. When in reality, all we want to be able to hear is you have the freedom to do good things. Go do it. So the Freedom 15 has been, I don't like the word game changer because it's not really a game changer. It's just a new concept that if we do it right again, I said it 5 times so far, we'll win. That's just the way it needs to be.
Wow, I love that. I mean, yeah, it's I bet people feel good about going to work at that point. Obviously, there's a much more better connection between members, or even if you're a resort style property, the guests and the staff. I mean, that's absolutely fantastic. So let me ask you this: for clubs that kind of want to just get started, like what would be the first place to start? Like, what would be the first major change that you would recommend a manager or a board undertake in order to change the culture at their club, Gautam?
I think, I know when we started this program 7 or 8 months ago, our biggest thought was, we have this support center in Alpharetta, Georgia, and we all breathe and feel the same way, right? Culture and service and culture and service. And then we realized that, ultimately at the end of the day, the most important people in the field are the general managers. The general managers and the department heads, they're the ones that really have to breathe this and feel this. And, I've been doing this since I graduated college in 1997. And since 1997, I remember as a young boy in 1985, let's just say when I was 10 years old, the golf pro used to put the newspaper under his arm. He used to stand out on the first tee. He used to play golf on Saturdays with the members. He never felt bad about playing golf. It was part of what the hospitality of the golf industry was. And over the years, in my opinion, it's become a business. Now, rightfully so. But it became a business where we've actually locked our people into offices where all they're really doing is monitoring things like they're air traffic controllers, like they're watching the planes and trying not to let them crash in the sky. Right. We need to undo the model of, in some way, we need to undo the model of managing by a desk. I've heard people say, whatever that acronym is, managing by walking around, right? I mean, we need to do more of that. But part of that is also teaching them how to be good leaders. I'm sure there's so many people on this podcast that have probably heard of Simon Sinek before. Yes. And Simon Sinek basically, he starts with why, and he teaches why leaders eat last and all these different things. So in my opinion, Gabe, it all starts with the leadership team, because if the leadership team acts and believes the same way, then I think all of it, and I'm not a big fan of hierarchy up and down because I do believe it's one team. If they do the right thing, then I think it bleeds into the frontline staff. So I think it starts with the mindset change. And how we started very simply was we brought all of our GMs in a room and actually taught this program and said, this isn't your fault that we've become desk managers, right? We need to get rid of the word manager and change it to leader, because everybody wants to be a leader. And if you really look at the definition of leader, we all want to be coaches, right? If coaches are cool, other than, some of the guys that grab you by the helmet and want to rip your head off. Ultimately, when I was a young kid, when I fell in a game of soccer, the coach ran onto the field and cared about me, wanted to see how I was doing. Right. So if we get rid of the word manager and involve more coaching, then that. So my recommendation is always, it starts with a mindset change with the leadership team, and then you change how they do business a little bit. And then I think it goes down to the frontline team. And then you'll see that this isn't just an agenda item, right? This is a real program that says the frontline team is the most important, and here's how you have to teach them to be the most important.
Right. I love that. That's very powerful little shift, like you said, from going from manager to a coach. But the ones that do it, that I've seen do it well, they're the ones that are greeting people at the door for dinner. Walking in the dining room. They're the ones who are out and about. I mean, that's they did the study, I think, and it kind of goes to this on like bedside manner with doctors. And doctors who got malpractice suits more often than not had the worst bedside manner. The ones who had good bedside manner, even though they made the exact same mistakes, they didn't get sued as much. And I'd be interested to see if more general managers stick around in their positions and hang on if they're more people oriented and coach oriented, like you're saying. That
absolutely fascinating. I mean, we hear it all the time. Is that the boards and management companies that, it's the GM that becomes like the mayor. He's the mayor or she's the mayor of the club, and those are the ones that have the longest. I don't want to say tenure at a club necessarily, but they're the ones that really become the most beloved, and not just beloved by the members, but beloved by the guests. Or by the employees too. I remember reading a long time ago that there's a phrase that says, if you were to leave your job, ask yourself, if you left your job, how many people would follow you? And I think if we asked ourselves that question more often, the ones that do it right are the ones that people, when they leave, go, take me with you. Not because they don't enjoy what they do, or not because of necessarily money. It's because they believe what you believe and they'll follow you. If you leave your job and people are going, thank God that guy's gone, you're not hitting the mark, So we ask that question of our GMs all the time, is when you leave, did you really make a personal impact? A financial impact, sure, I get that. But did you really make an impact? Will people follow you? And that's a great question to ask yourself,
I love it, Gautam. I could go on talking to you for a long time here, but I know I want to be mindful of our time. And
Sure.
I guess let's leave it with this. If you could boil down the Bobby Jones culture, Bobby Jones Links organization's culture down to one thing, or what are your values? How would you describe it?
Mine's easy. That's the best question and the easiest question. So our core value, our basically everything we stand on is 3 words: make a difference. That's it. We tell you that at Bobby Jones, and I feel that if you go into work every single day and just try to make a difference, you're going to do the right thing. And that's our core purpose, right? If we can make a difference, we win. And when you look at our company and you look at our 2 owners and you look at the people that sit in the support center, then you look at our team that are out in the field, if every single day we go out there and make a difference, we win. And what I'll tell you, the interesting part, Gabe, is even over the last 7 or 8 months, a few of the people that tended to be a little bit more, grumpy's not a right word, but just a little bit more grumpy, I can see them holding more doors. I can see them using the phrase, even if it's my pleasure more than thank you. You see these small changes, and you see them doing things outside of their work life, because again, this is such a strange concept in our business, but if you do believe in the phrase make a difference, and then that's what Bobby Jones really stands for, then like I said before, that's when we move the bottom line through customer service. But I think, you asked something in the beginning and you mentioned like the retention and all of that. How do we retain people? We can't find people because of what's going on, with the world right now after the coronavirus and everything. And part of that too is if you build a culture of a company that's really about making a difference, then people do want to stick around, and they see a trajectory for themselves where they want to be part of something. So I think for us, it really does start with just make a difference every day. I say this to you, you're a new friend of mine, and I say, as I sit here in front of you, if I sit over here and try to make a difference in this conversation that you and I are having, then I know I'm going to do it the right way. I'm going to do it with some love and care, and it's going to make sense to everybody that's listening. If I don't really want to make a difference, then this is going to be a dud, and we'd have hung up 15 minutes ago.
Sure. Right. Yeah, well said. Well said. Well,
right.
I can't wait to dive in deeper into the culture and what you guys are doing over there. I've browsed your website, but I definitely want to learn more. If folks want to just, get a little bit more info on you or Bobby Jones Links in general, what's the best way to go about that?
Yeah, I think if you can go to just www.bobbyjoneslinks.com, and then you'll be able to scroll through. And if you're interested in, learning more about our program as far as management, then you'll see, Doug Hellman and Mark Oldham, their information is there, Whitney Krause. If you're interested in just sending me a line and having a conversation, my email address is there. I won't try to spell it on the podcast because I'll eat the rest of the time up because it's long. But we're all available there. Our phone numbers and our email addresses are there, so we're easily found.
Yeah, accessibility sounds like it's also one of the core values of you guys, which is really cool.
Absolutely.
Well, Gautam, I absolutely enjoyed this one. This was a lot of fun, and I hope we can do it again sometime. Maybe we'll get you on again, and we'll talk. We'll dive a little bit deeper into what you guys are doing. But I appreciate the time, sir.
No, I do too, and I appreciate you thinking of us. And this was very enjoyable. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, thank you. All right, guys. Well, that was pretty awesome. We get great guests from time to time, and that was definitely one of them here on the show. Thank you guys for joining us here. We should be back next Tuesday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. Let's see, what is that? It's British summertime right now, so I believe that is 3 p.m. British summertime. I'll catch you then. Until then, here's to your membership success. Bye, guys.